It started for me with me making a plan. It's not going to be easy when you're trying to stick to a plan. Hurdles will come in the way, but stick to the plan. And no matter how hard it gets, stay till the end, because in staying and seeing it through to the end, you will get the results. It is not who you are, it's sticking to the system that works. And the system is write a plan, stick to the plan, and no matter how hard it gets, stick to the plan.
You are here. Welcome to the Purpose Finder podcast. This is the show where we uncover why you are truly here, and more importantly, how to make it your reality. My father, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, said the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but life without purpose. And research further shows that people with a strong sense of purpose are 2.4 times more likely to feel fulfilled. Each week, I sit down with extraordinary guests, entrepreneurs, artists, thought leaders who are boldly living their why. We dive deep into their journeys, the struggles they've overcome, their breakthroughs, and the lessons that can help you do the same. I am your beautiful host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and we're about to explore the mindsets, tools, and strategies to help you live a life with purpose, passion, and legacy. Are you ready? Let's go and dive into the episode. Welcome back to another great episode of the Purpose Finder podcast, where our mission is simple: to inspire you to find and uncover your purpose and to live a life overflowing with three things: meaning, fulfillment, and significance. Yes, very important. Why? Because deep down, we all crave belonging. Nobody wants to feel unfulfilled, and we're all searching. Yes, all searching, asking the big question: why in the world am I here? Well, let your search find its answers right here on the Purpose Finder podcast. I'm your host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and today I have the incredible honor of sitting with a beautiful sister friend of mine who is not only someone talking about purpose and someone thinking about it, but she's actually living out her purpose boldly, literally boldly. We're going to explore her story, some lessons she have learned, and her journey together. Dr. Denise Nicholson, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please say hello.
Hello, it's always a pleasure for me to be with you and in your company. You're inspiring and you're always doing something different, something I can learn from. So it's always good to talk with you.
I didn't pay her to say that, people. I promise. I speak from my heart. Thank you so much for that, my dear. Thank you. I don't want to read a bio. People are not here to hear me read anything, but they do want to hear your heart. So from your heart, tell us who you are, what you do, um, just so they get to know who Denise is, who's going to be talking to them for the next at least 45 minutes.
Okay, so I am a little black girl from Jamaica, West Indies, and I migrated to Mount Vernon, New York when I was 13 years old. My story is when I was 3 years old, my mother left me and my four siblings in Jamaica so she could come to America and find new opportunities. Now, it was Chris Grassa who said, opportunities don't just happen, you have to create them. And my mother, I believe, she knew that. So she left us there and she came to America to, you know, make better for herself and for her children. But once my mother left and came here, I did not understand that it was going to take her a long time to come back. So my story started with me pining over my mother not being there. And a lot of things happened. So I became not a foster child where I went to foster home, but I started to go from different families' home. And by the time I was 6 years old, I was in 6 different homes. So I had that background and that upbringing. And then fast forward years later, when I was 13 years old, my mother was in a car accident here in America, and I still haven't seen her yet. since I was 3 years old when she left. So this has been 10 years since she left. And there's a lot of baggage that I was carrying, not having grown up with my mom, then being in a system of going from different homes. So I always felt not sorry for myself, but I always wish that I had parents, because about 6 weeks after my mother left and came to America, my father died in a car accident. And so that was a struggle for me. So I came to America. That's my story. When I was 13 years old, I became a teenage mother when I was 16 years old. And then I became severely depressed, having so much overwhelmed from struggling to manage my life and manage having a child and being a caretaker. And that led me to nursing school. I started speaking to my pastor about my depression, and I was just diagnosed with depression, and I was talking to my pastor about it, and we discovered that I needed to live the life that I was dreaming of. At the time, I had big hopes and big dreams, and all I could think about was the circumstances of my situation. I couldn't see beyond them. And that's what was causing my anxiety and my depression. The fact that I couldn't see my way out. So once I sat down with my pastor and we created a plan, and I went back to school and became a registered nurse, that just opened the door for me for possibilities. And I remembered all my other dreams. And one of those dreams was for me to become an author. So I started on that journey also. And I think having gone back to school was one of the best things. As a matter of fact, I think therapy, going to therapy and starting with my pastor, that was one of the best things that has ever happened to me.
Thank you for that. My goodness, your story. And I think of you now, the person that I know now, who has an amazing publishing company. You've helped so many people write their books, tell their story, but you also had a story too. And that started from, I mean, from childhood
Mm.
and mom leaving and dad dying, and then you becoming a single parent. But you, along the way, even though you had a moment in your life where you were depressed, where you couldn't see beyond your circumstances, you still knew that there were possibilities for you. You still knew that there were more. And I'm glad to hear you be transparent about the fact that therapy has helped. Talking with your pastor has helped. It's one of those things that people still in today's world still don't want to talk about, still don't want to share, or there are people who still don't want to take advantage of the fact that sometimes we need help. I heard someone say recently, you know how the saying, time heals all wounds. That may be true, but they said not only time heals all wounds. So yes, time heals wounds, and with time we get over it, but it doesn't have to be only time. It could be time and counseling. It could be time and therapy. It could be time and friends, time and a community, time that all of these things can heal wounds. Why just focus on just waiting on time when it can take less time to heal your wounds and heal your trauma if you opened up to therapy? And so, can you talk a little bit about what that was for you initially? Were you always open up to therapy? Did it take a while for you to get into therapy? How did you find your therapist? And then what did they really do to help you get through?
So I'd like to say that time, and I agree with you that time by itself does not heal all wounds. As a matter of fact, now that I'm a coach for budding authors, I'm realizing that time didn't heal any wounds for them. What they have done is suppress, put away, not discuss, and packed away some things, some emotions, some of the pain that they were feeling back then, and it created other issues and surfaced in their lives different ways. So you may not talk about the pain, but it's surfacing in other areas, in different relationships, in the way you manage your intimate relationships or the relationships with your children or at work. So it comes up in different ways. For me, it was coming up. It was showing up in my relationship with my husband, with my children. I was not a great mother in the beginning because I did not manage the anger that I was feeling about some of the
Mm,
things that happened to me. And so I don't think I was a good mother in that the way I handled my anger when my children did something wrong, instead of um, disciplining them out of love and, out of wanting them to be corrected to learn the right thing, it was a quick anger. And I regret the things that I've done in the past, but I learned that that was because I did not address the emotions, the anger that I had because of the things that happened to me while I was away from my parents. So I was grateful that when it was surfacing in anger and upset and just all the other sadness and the way that it was surfacing in my life, it compounded my issue. And so I was not just angry, I was angry and depressed and shown it in, and it was showing up in my relationships. I was grateful that I had a wise pastor, and that was Pastor Reed. And I'm from the Seventh day Adventist community. And what happened is, I went to my pastor, and in the Seventh day Adventist community, I am so grateful that they had created a space for families to have therapy at a very, very discounted um, rate. And so when I and my husband was seeking for therapists, it was stupidly expensive. And we did it. We did the $250 an hour thing. But when we started to go to the recommended therapist for the Seventh day Adventist Union, it was so discounted we couldn't say no, honey. So I am grateful that I am not just in the time and era that therapy is celebrated. I feel like it's more celebrated now than it was, back then in my parents' time. And I not only is it, I live in an era where it's celebrated, but I also have the lifestyle that can pay for therapy, marriage counsel, or just individual counsel. So I am grateful that I not only live in this time, but I have the resources to counter and battle with what I was going through at the time.
and even when I listen to you, first of all, let me say that I'm sure you were an amazing mother. Did you have all of the tools, or did you even know how to use the tools in your mother toolbox? Maybe not. We learn these every day. But you were an amazing mother back then. You just like you and I have learned from one of our coaches, you did the best with what you had.
Amen. Thank you for that
But
grace.
one thing you said is these are the things when you don't resolve uh personal trauma or past issues, they show up in your present relationships, in your present in your presenthood, or even sometimes your future.
Yeah.
And so you're saying that you weren't a bad mother because it showed up, according to you, in your mothering of your child at the time, because of your unresolved trauma. And this is why I want to talk about therapy as it relates to purpose, because it can be one of those things that, if unresolved trauma, that is, could stifle our discovering of our purpose and
Mm-hmm.
living it out boldly,
Yes.
misusing our gifts, manipulating. When along with discovering your purpose also comes being the best version of yourself, which sometimes does look like having to deal with things underneath the surface that we don't want to talk about. We don't want to talk about grief. We don't want to talk about depression. I'm so grateful for your transparency. We don't want to talk about depression, anxiety, panic attacks, PTSD. Like these are true, real things that happen to real people like you and I,
Yes.
who, when as we get to this place um, of being at the apex of who we are, and we think that what's underneath the surface doesn't matter, or we think that they don't need to know. But I think it's beautiful for people to be able to see themselves in you, Denise, to see themselves in me, to see themselves in, wow, I was a single mother as well. And look at what she's done. Wow, I was a single mother, depressed, uh, treated my daughter horribly or my son horribly for the first 10 years because of what my mom did to me. But look at what she's done now. She's a better mother. She's a better mother for it. She's willing to take the risk. She's gotten help, pastor, therapist,
Yes.
and now she is helping others. Like for people to hear that, um, to see that depression doesn't have to be permanent. We're not saying that depression doesn't have to be at all, but what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be all of your life. It doesn't have to be where you end. And are you able to say if you've been able to deal with depression or anxiety, if any, differently 25, 30 years later?
I can talk about this now and be transparent because it's been a long time. It's been at least 20 years since I've gone through that depression. And oh my God, it's been 20 years. Thank you, Jesus. But let me tell you, I can talk about it now because I'm healed. And when I wasn't healed, it was very sensitive. I couldn't, I, I, I didn't even want to hear the word depressed. I don't want to hear depressed. I don't want to hear depression. I don't want to hear mental health challenges. I don't want to hear it. And I remember when I was diagnosed, when the doctor told me that I was depressed, and I answered all those questions, and then he said, Denise, I'm doing the screening, and it's showing me that you have, you know, depression, and I started crying again. And so, you know, I remember leaving his office and crying all the way home. About 45 minutes drive, I cried all the way home. And then I started to pray and started to plead and beg God to not let me fall prey to this thing, that I needed help and I would appreciate it if he could just show me the way. And even though I prayed for him to show me the way, when the way came, I did not want to accept it because I still didn't want to accept that I had this depression. But I can say one of the things that really helped me is that there were some homework for me to do, and those changes add up. Change adds up, guys. When you make small change in your life, just like when you come home and you empty your pockets and you put the change in a little bottle, and every day, if you were to put the little change in a bottle, those change adds up. And let me tell you, it's the same way when you change certain things about how you see things, those changes add up, because my husband didn't change, my children didn't change, but I made small change and they added up to who I am today. So you're not going to see a big jump all of a sudden. What you're going to need to do is just decide on little steps to take. And when you look back 20 years, maybe 5 years, you don't need to, it won't be long before you could see those little habits make big change in your life.
I love that. I've never heard that perspective before. Change adds up. Oh, that is so nice to hear. And I think for so many of us too, who are making changes where we want to see the results right away. Like everybody, I'm sure, has a New Year's resolution of losing however many amount of pounds in the next 6 months. And I promise you, many people want to see it the next day. But remembering
Me,
that,
me,
like,
me, me,
hello, that progressive change, like if you're doing the right things to make change happen, like change adds up over time. Oh, that is so, I love to hear that.
Thank
And I want to go back to your depression. For those who are going through it now, for those who have no idea, or even for those who may not even think they are. I know myself as a social worker, I've seen depression come in all
different forms.
types and
Yeah.
all forms. Everybody is different. But for you, what did depression look like? What did it feel like for you?
So I didn't know that I was depressed because I was wearing this mask where I was one way at work and another way on my way home. And so it wasn't easy for me to know that I was depressed. What it looked like when I was doing the screening was when Dr. Thomas said, have did you find your do you find yourself crying all the time for no reason? That's one of the questions I remember. And then he asked, did I think about hurting myself?
Hurting yourself.
And I used to drive over the bridge and think how I could flip the car over the bridge when I'm by myself. And that's you know that's suicidal ideation. So I did not know that what I was doing and thinking, I did not realize that was the depression. So crying all the time was one of them, thinking I don't want to wake up because I didn't always have those thoughts where I'm going to flip the car over the bridge, but I was thinking I if I could just not wake up and this is all past. So that's also some of the ways that it may show up for someone. And you know what? It also shows up in overachieving, like you're working yourself to death. You don't realize it, but you're working 16, 18, 20 hours a day. It may show up. And for Black women, what it does show up like, what it looks like for a lot of us is anger. Instead of the crying all the time, we could just be upset at our situation and people will look at us as angry Black women when we're just upset at the things that we find hard to change or the hopelessness that we see in our situation. And for me, I was feeling hopeless. I was feeling like all of these things that I'm experiencing is never going to change. And because I couldn't see my way through, it made me sad. I cried all the time and I felt, not depressed. I just cried all the time. And what I looked like at home, I was talked about that mask. So at work, I was a hairstylist at the time. And when I went to work, I was dressed up and ready to hear and ready to work and ready to make these women beautiful. But on my way home, immediately I start thinking, oh my God, do I even want to go there? Because me and my husband was having a really hard time and communication was so difficult for us. And it was just like, I don't want to go into this argument. I don't want to go home to hear this. And and there's a lot of criticism of the things that I didn't do because I wasn't performing at my best when I came home. I wasn't my best self. I just wanted to wear my robe and walk around in my robe with my hair not done because I took my wig off as soon as I get in and my hair underneath was unkempt. And I walked around looking like that at home, looking just sad. And that's what it looked like for me. So if there's someone out there, it may not look the same for you, but you may find that you are always trying to explain yourself. You feel like are angry all the time, or people are always coming at you. That may be a sign for you to go to your physician and say, "Hey, these are the things I'm experiencing. Let's do that screening. That depression screening test and see where I stand, because I believe that I need some help. I just don't know where to go and what kind of help I need. So I think that's where we start. Look at ourselves and see what don't we like that's going on in our lives. And for me, I didn't even like how I look and I was carrying on around the house. I was moping around the house. I didn't like that about myself. And I knew that, but I didn't know it was depression.
And thank you for encouraging those who are listening who may be feeling just a fraction of what you described, for encouraging them to go and get some help.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you are even if you don't know, it's better to don't know, have gone, get screened, checked it out, and they say, no, you're good, than for it to be the case and you're afraid. We gone are the days when these things are a stigma of negative response or opinion. Like get yourself some help. Denise, thank you so much for being open to share that. Because now we see the other side where somewhere along the line the change add up.
Yes.
The change added up.
Yes.
And you're at a place where there's a smile on your face now that I see, and you're on the other side
Mhm.
of the depression. And earlier, as you were talking about your story, you mentioned that it flipped for you when you decided to start living the life you dreamed of. And immediately I heard, and then there is where purpose began.
Yes.
So now that we've talked about depression, let's talk about what does purpose mean to you? What does purpose mean for you? And at what point in your life did you switch from depression to that calling, that purposeful calling in your life?
Purpose to me is answering the call to serve that part of you that you love about yourself to the world. For me, it was storytelling. I grew up going from home to home, and I've spent some time with my great grandmother, Diddy. And my great grandmother used to put me to bed at night telling me stories. Anansi stories, Berta Tukuman stories, all kind of folklore, African folklore. And those stories helped me see myself differently at that time. But I latched on to storytelling. And so I love telling stories. I love writing stories. As a matter of fact, I published my first stories when I was in the third grade. I still have the checks. My aunt gave them to me and I never cashed them when I was little. I still have them today. So when I was in the third grade, I was able to publish my work, and I had a dream to write a book, which is what led me to where I am today, because I answered that call. Once I started to make the changes, like going to the therapist and getting counseling, and then also getting marriage counseling, which saved my marriage and saved my life. And then I started to work a plan. Pastor Rita told me that I needed to create a plan. He was like, I know you're doing this now, but if you could do anything in the world, what would it be? And I said, well, I would like to be a nurse, because I had a third grade teacher that spoke into me and made me believe that I could be a nurse and I could be an author and I could do all these great things. So I said, you know what, Pastor Reed, that's one thing that I would love to do. So he said, make a plan to go back to school. But I was doing well in my field as a hairstylist at the time. I was traveling with Missy Elliott doing her hair. So I didn't need to go back to school. But in order for me to live out that part of me that was inside, that just felt like like it was suppressed, like I had this dream. So I said, okay, I made the plan to go back to school. And then once I went back to school, other opportunities, other dreams that I had when I was young started to come out. And one of them was to write a book. And once I wrote that book, it was up from there, honey.
And so you wrote this book, and the book is about?
So the book is Sila, When Mommy Left for Foreign. And the book was also to address depression and how it looks with women in different phases of their depression, and how it looked at different ages for women. So each woman in the story shared their story, but depression looked different for every person. There's a person in the book that she just casually drank her wine every night, honey. And it may not be that someone that you see is drinking all the time has depression, but that's how she was exhibiting her signs of depression. And so the book is about sharing women's stories and encouraging women to seek therapy. So when you read the book, it mentions seek therapy over 100 times, because that's the message that was helpful to me, to seek therapy, and that's the message that I felt that was my purpose to share at the time.
And it's so interesting that here on the podcast, well, here it is. You and I are talking about depression looking different for everyone. It's not a cookie cutter type of concept. What happened to you may not be what depression looked like for me. For Susie, it looked like something else. For Jane, it looked like something else.
Yes.
And here we are on the Purpose Finder podcast talking about purpose looking different for everyone. Purpose comes in all shapes, sizes, textures, colors. Like your purpose looks very different from mine. My purpose looks very different from Tommy's. Tommy's purpose looks very different from Jonah. But nonetheless, we all have purpose. Your life is going to look different from mine, but we all have a life that we have lived. But I think one of the through points or through line with all of us is we were born with a purpose. What'll be the difference between me or you and anyone else is what we do with taking responsibility with discovering that. And so I hear you go from depressed to dream, go from depression to, but I have a dream of what
Yes.
my life is, and I want to figure out how to do that. And so you write this book and you use your past pain, if you will,
Yes.
to help others with their life's purpose and coming out of their own journey of depression. And then not only have you now written a book, but then then you got to a stage where you're helping others do the same.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how that started. Hey, purpose seekers. If this conversation has you thinking about your purpose, what it is, how to find it, and how to truly live it, then I have something just for you. Introducing the Purpose Finder Formula. You have the free access to my 20-minute training designed to help you uncover your purpose and to start living it with confidence. No fluff, no guesswork. It's clear, practical, step-by-step guide to finding meaning and gaining clarity and direction. Your purpose is calling. Are you ready to answer? Head over to www.charissamonroe.com/purpose finder formula. Enter your info and I'll send it straight to your inbox. Imagine waking up every day knowing your life has meaning, impact, and joy. That's what awaits you. So don't wait. Grab your free training today. Now, let's get back to the episode.
So that started when I answered the call to serve that story in me and the story of the women that were around me. Once I packaged that and put that in a book, then other people started to say, "Hey, how did you do this?" And I started to share how I did this. And I'm very in tune to when I see a gap, and I recognize this gap. And on my website, I had created a website to help women with therapy, help them seek therapy, and just like a life coach and help them through it. But honey, I called my niece. I said, I'm getting so many questions about how to write a book. I would like a lead page or a page to start answering those questions, and I'm going to start teaching people how to write a book. So that then led, I had people sign up, not a lot, but I had people sign up. And then once those people were finished, then I had to pivot and start publishing their book, because the publisher that I was recommended wasn't available at the time. And so I had people that was finished and I was like, oh my God, How am I going to help these people publish if she can't do it? So then I learned the publishing side, and here I am today. That is why it's so important. The thing that you are doing, this is your purpose. Like, you're doing it for free, you're doing it anyway. And you're thinking it's not a big deal. That's your purpose. Trust me.
And you, as you talk about purpose, one of the puzzle pieces to finding purpose is finding a problem.
Yes.
And you didn't say that, but you used words like, I'm in tune with seeing a gap.
Yes.
And so the problem that you saw a lot of these women having was in the gap. Yeah, they had these depression issues, they needed to see a therapist, so they came to you for that. But then there was always also now how do I put this in a story? How do I write a book? And so that was a problem that you saw, and you say, I'm gonna jump and be the solution to this problem. And so your purpose begin to evolve, if you will.
Yeah, I was focusing on selling the book at the time. I was going to different places and doing podcast interviews and book signing. This was 2019. So before the pandemic, I was busy just, working the field and selling the books. But every time I showed up, I recognized that there was a need for people who wanted to write a book but did not know how to do it. They didn't know where to start. They just didn't have the same mentor or opportunity and resources that I found. So I was like, I'm going to wrap this up and help y'all write this book. And
And
that's
now
how it started.
you're at this place where so you have helped how many people write and publish a book?
Currently, I've helped 35 people publish already, and I have five. Matter of fact, I have a list of 8 people in the publishing
In queue now.
queue now. So we have 35 that's already done, and 8 to come in the first quarter of this year. And then I've helped over 300 people write bios and write other books because some people are part of a book. And so I've helped with the anthologies. I've helped
Mm-hmm.
almost
Mm-hmm.
300 different people write a book or write contributions to a book.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to hear where Denise is now. But think about you said your mom left when you were 3?
3 years old.
When you
Mm-hmm.
think about the 3-year-old whose mother left her and her siblings because she wanted a better. She didn't take them with her. She left them because she wanted a better life. And dad died. So now she's just left fostering from family home to family home, going through depression, becoming a single mom at 16. Yes?
Yeah.
16.
Mm-hmm.
And now
Not a
here
single
she is
mom, I must
years
say,
later.
but I was a teenage mom. Yeah.
Teenage
Yeah.
mom.
Mm-hmm.
And here she is having helped 35 people publish book and over
Mm-hmm.
300 people write other important projects that they need. And it just goes to show, and this is why, Denise, thank you so much for being so open and transparent with your story, because people need to be able to hear, the people that are listening to your voice, to my voice, they need to be able to hear the story, the valleys, the not so highs, the lows, the adversity that we as people, as leaders go through, as great people go through, so that they know too that you can also be great. You're also worthy. You're also valuable. And most importantly, you have a purpose that is worth, that deserves you finding it out, that deserves you discovering it and then living it boldly. Because a lot of people find their purpose,
Yeah.
a lot of people discover it and then they cover it up real quick because they're like, oh
Mm.
no, that's too big, or oh no, I'm not ready for that, or I don't think I'm me go before a king, that's my purpose, and
Mm.
serve the king.
Mm.
Why not you? Why not you? And so what, you had a baby when you were a teenager. You're the perfect person. Why should any of your past disqualify you from still living out the purpose that God created you to be. And it's just amazing. And I don't always know the stories of all of my guests. So even I am just like the audience learning. And, I know where you are now, but when I hear where you came from, it even just adds more light, more value, more beauty to what you do now. So if you had to describe, Denise, what life was or what life is like now, before and after discovering your purpose, how would you put that into words?
Night and day. When I was still serving women, I was a hairstylist and I enjoyed being a hairstylist. I was good, honey. So I loved it. And I loved the relationships that I had with the women. And I had women who would travel from far distance to come and get their hair done. And so I loved it. And I, 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 I don't even regret that I did that. Even though I'm in a different space now, I enjoyed it and I would do it again. But when I started to help people write and publish their book, something in me changed because I didn't realize, and I don't want this to sound funny, but I didn't realize I was a big deal when I was doing hair. I didn't realize that I was a big deal. And sometimes we don't accept.
Girl, you was traveling with Missy Elliott. How did you not think you was a big deal? Listen to that. I don't want her to think that we didn't hear when she said she was traveling around with Missy Elliott doing her hair. We heard all of it. And then you come talk about, I didn't know I was a big
I
deal.
didn't even feel,
Talk
because
about
first of all,
humility.
I'm traveling with Missy Elliott, and Missy would tell me, you could call her today and ask her. Missy would tell me, she's called me Marsha. She said, Marsha, I am the celebrity because I had,
She said, let me remind you,
let me
ma'am.
remind you, because I had a little issue with
Don't
showing
take
up
my
on
shine.
time. And she was like, I'm the celebrity. Don't come in here late again. Okay. So I knew I wasn't a big deal at the time. Okay. But once I started helping people and I realized that they were relying on me, not just for their outer beauty, but to help them get something out of them that could be their legacy, that they can leave on earth for their family and create this legacy. I started to feel different about me. And I learned that I'm a big deal when sometimes we don't accept that we've changed and grown and are different. And when I say different, it doesn't mean that you're better. It just means that you've opened yourself up to do things differently. And I'm telling you this story because when I was working at the hospital one time and I needed to get help from another physician. And I was explaining that the other physician was reluctant to help me. And the doctor said, Does he know who you are?
Mm.
Does he know who you are? And I'm like, Yeah, I said who I am. He was like, He doesn't know who you are. You're a big deal. Let me call them and tell them who you are. And after that, I started looking at myself so different. I'm like, Girl, you're a big deal. But it helped me to look at myself and be like, you know what? You need to accept that you are changed, you are different, and people need you, and your service is important because you're changing lives.
Now I'm going to ask a question that I know other inquiring minds want to know. So let's go back to the Missy Elliott.
Yes.
That's a good part of the story, but let's go back here. So you worked with her very, very closely because once you're doing somebody here and makeup, you in there like swimwear, like they say.
It's true.
Um, do you still have the communication line to her? Is she still someone you can reach out to? Is that connection still there, or is that a part of your life, if you will, that when you left it behind, then you just left it behind?
No, 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 no. So I wouldn't say, because I haven't reached out to Missy in a long time, but I remember having not done her hair in 10 years, I was reaching out to her. As late as maybe 10 years ago, I was able to reach out to her. And her lawyer and I are friends. So if I wanted to reach out to her and, and get help from her, I could. So yeah, I haven't reached out, but she's still amazing, and she is a wonderful human being that you can go to for any help.
That's interesting. I'm sure the audience want to know. I'm just using that as an excuse, but I want to know.
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you were a big deal about as far as, but you are a big deal.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You and I met a couple of years ago. And then we share the same coach, and it's been wonderful just watching your growth and just watching the work that you do and us supporting each other. You come to my women's retreat, and we've just supported each other along the way, and I think it's just beautiful, to know that you can support other people who are also in this purpose walk, on this purpose walk. And we all have different stories, but you find a common ground. You find a common ground somewhere. And I appreciate you for just answering your call. Just answering your call, because I can only imagine if you hadn't, would you and I have crossed paths? If you weren't living, when, and as the audience listen to us, like think about other people. If you don't do something as it relates to your purpose, imagine how many lives are gonna suffer because of your inadequacy or your irresponsibility in not living out your purpose.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, purpose is not about you. Let me clear that up right now.
Yes.
It's not about you. And that's a hard pill to swallow, let me tell you.
Because of
it's
our
not
ego.
easy.
Yeah.
But it's not about you. It's not, you're not necessarily supposed to feel good all the time. It's not going to be something you want to wake up to all the time or wake up for all the time. But when you think about the lives that would be missing out if you don't find your purpose, the lives that would be missing out if you don't discover and live it out. Like, imagine how many, think about those 35 people, Denise, who needed to get their story out that would help others, where they would be if you hadn't answered your call, if you hadn't decided to do something as simple as get a therapist or seek help from your pastor. Like, they would have been missing. They would be, and yes, they may have gotten their books published, but they may have been manipulated in doing so. They may have been, robbed, if you will. May have been a mediocre job or not have a book published at all. At all.
Yeah.
But you chose to, say it's not about me. You could still walk around being completely upset with your mother, but you eventually said, no, I have to heal that.
Yes. Because I was upset with my mother, and it took a long time to realize I was upset with my mother, because, you love your parents and you don't want to be upset with them. But the things that are showing up in your life, like anger and the sadness, that is part of you not forgiving them. That was for me, it was part of it. And because I was holding on to that anger and holding on to, I have a right to be upset, who leaves their children? And I was having this conversation with my adult son, the same son that I had when I was 16. I was having this conversation with him maybe 10 years ago when we started the therapy program and Knit It Together. When we started Knit It Together, I was having this conversation with Adrian, and I said, what mother leaves her children and go to another country? And the boy looked at me and said, a mother like you. I was like, I never left y'all. And he said, but you are ambitious and you want more, and you would leave your children in a safe place to find more that you think you and your children deserve, which you have. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's when I decided I needed to forgive my mother, because we're the same person, honey.
Absolutely. And again, just how you didn't think you were a good mother, and I had to remind you, yes, you were.
Thank you.
Your mother probably was a good mother, because like you said, she didn't just leave you out without anyone. She just left. You were still able to go to family homes. She just may have been just as ambitious as you were. That is so interesting now that you say it. Like, it's even making me think many, many times. And I was doing a training with a group of people, and it was this guy, and he was talking about his father and the fact that he grew up not wanting to be his father, like what his father was to him or wasn't to him, and what he was going to be to his children that his father wasn't. And he discovered that in trying not to be his dad, he turned out to be his dad. And it was actually almost sad listening to his story, Denise, because he thought that loving his girls and being there for his girls and spoiling them and giving them everything they want and giving them all the love and the affection was not being his dad, because he didn't get that from his dad. Being present, being at all of their extracurricular activities was not being his dad, because the dad wasn't there. So as far as he's concerned, he's not going to be his dad. He's not going to be his dad. He's not going to be his dad. Then he discovered that, unfortunately, in all of his overcompensating and his ambitiousness, that he was not going to be his father. This young man has 6 children. And the way that he is exactly his father is the fact that all 6 of those children have a different mother.
Oh, wow.
Yes. But he never looked at it like that. All he knows is all 6 of his children, he is present for, he's in their life for, he's there for them. They know him by daddy. He's active in their life. All the things that his father wasn't to him. It took him maybe the same training to realize that it turns out that, man, the man I was trying not to be like, I may have done it in this area, but the same multiple women that my dad had kids for, here I am with these 6 children and 6 mothers. And so that, it does matter where you come from.
Yes.
You don't have to stay that way. And so of course we still encouraged the fact that he, was wanting to be a different dad, and we didn't judge the fact that you have, 6 different children with 6 different women. At least you're in their lives. You're showing up for them. You're supporting them. But you also don't get to point the finger at your dad and mom and say how horrible they were
and how much better I am as a person than they are, because they were doing the best they could with what they had.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I've learned that when I hear people talk about how my mother was with her children, with me and with my siblings, and then I realized my mother was an awesome woman, well, just a wonderful mother who wanted more for her children and did everything in her power to give us the opportunity. And I am so grateful that she did, because I'm here. I am who I am because of the sacrifices she made.
And like you say, she wanted more for her children. I don't think you even said that the first time.
Yep.
So the first time I heard she wanted more for her. But to know that she left you to find more for you. Of course, as a 3-year-old, as far as you're concerned, all you know is mom left. Mom left. But the rest of the story is she was leaving for me.
To prepare a place. Ooh.
Exactly. Ooh. And though it didn't feel good, so you get to figure out, how do I do the same for mine without making them feel
left,
abandoned or left out?
Yes.
Exactly. And these are some of the challenges that we go through, that we face. Of course, everybody's challenges is different.
Yes.
But here you are with great character, with strong, resilient, in who you are today, with a massive publishing company, with customers who are knocking at the door, can't wait to work with you.
Amen. Thank you.
But you've come from somewhere. You didn't let that deter you from living your calling, answering your call. And so, Denise, I must ask, if you were to give advice to our audience today, what would that be? The best advice?
The best thing that I would advise someone to do, and I'm not going to make it cliche, I'm going to tell you what worked for me. It was to make a plan. What do I want? It started for me with me making a plan, saying, okay, this is the life that I want. I wanted to become a nurse, and I went back to school. Although I was having a great, successful life, I wanted this thing that made me feel like I would have an education. And so make a plan and stick to the plan. It's not going to be easy when you're trying to stick to a plan because hurdles will come in the way, but stick to the plan. And
Make
then,
a plan.
yeah, man, make a plan and then stick to the plan. And no matter how hard it gets, stay till the end, because in staying and seeing it through to the end, you will get the results. It is not who you are, it's sticking to the system that works. And the system is write a plan, stick to the plan, and no matter how hard it gets, stick to the plan.
Stick to the plan. And you actually talked about plan when you were giving your story early on, and then how you went from depression to just living out your dream.
Yes.
And the fact that you couldn't see beyond the circumstances. I wrote all this down. And then you said what changed for you was you created a plan.
Yes.
You said this early on in our talk. And then you said as soon as you created a plan, your possibilities open.
It's true, guys.
Your
Create that
possibilities
plan.
open.
Yes. Yes.
And so for you to now even bring that full circle and that be the advice. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is. Create a plan. Stick to the plan. When things get tough, stick to the plan. Stick to the plan.
Yep. Because what
Denise,
you're going to realize, sorry to cut you off, but what you're going to realize is when you stick to the plan is you are working your way through the tough times, and you will come out being smarter, being better, being stronger.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Create a plan, stick to the plan, and when times get tough, stick to the plan. I love it. Denise, thank you so much. You've heard all the lessons, you've heard the challenges, you've heard the story, the new beginnings, or the first beginnings of her story. And now here she is, just a great author, great publishing company, helping so many people write their story, publish their story so that others can hear. And if you are interested in having your story shared, published, Denise, tell us what it is you do for folks every year.
Oh, we have an authors conference, and this year our keynote in-person speaker is Mr. Les Brown himself.
Oh yes, I think I saw that.
We're excited about that, but we do it every year. I don't know who we'll have next year, but come this year and just embrace becoming an author or having already written your book and see what's in store for you.
What is your website so that we can visit?
It's boldpublishings.com.
Boldpublishing.com. Publishings.
.com. And if you can't find that, just go to DeniseNicholson.com.
.com. Not only is she thinking about purpose, talking about purpose, but she's living it out boldly, literally. Boldpublishings.com. You can visit Denise's website, get all the information about what she does, who she is, and then about that annual event that she has for writers, future writers, publishers, and so forth. So Denise, before you leave, you mentioned that you were from Jamaica.
Yes.
So it is important that I ask this question because I'm asking all of my guests this question because guess what? After all is said and done, if nothing else is going to make me smile, it's going to be food. I'm a foodie. Shows all over me, shows in who I am, shows on my image, and guess what? I don't care. I love good quality food.
At her events, child of food is number one.
Hey, something may be lacking, but it ain't gonna never be on the food.
Nothing is lacking, honey, especially the food.
So, what is your favorite food or one of your favorite foods? And then what is your favorite restaurant?
Oh, geez and peas. What is my favorite food? So I like fried plantains. And I can have...
You see why she is my sister.
I love fried plantain.
Oh, fried plantain. Oh,
ackee and sawfish with fried plantains and boiled dumplings. That's my favorite.
True Jamaican at heart. True Jamaican. Oh, I could eat fried plantains breakfast, lunch, dinner, and every snack in between. Let me tell you.
Yep,
And
me
I
too.
don't judge me if you want to. But if
Plantain
you want to make me
chips.
happy, put it in the mail, send it to me. So what's your favorite restaurant? Whether it's Jamaica, whether it's the US, I don't even care where.
My favorite restaurant. Damn, what is the name of this restaurant that I love the food every single time I go there? G's and P's. So it is a small restaurant in Brooklyn, New York. It's an Ital restaurant. And damn, I don't even remember the name of it, but every single time I go to this restaurant, I salivate. I can't wait to go
Mm.
back. The food is so good. As a matter of fact, the way he prepared the plantains over there, honey. So he makes the plantains in the oven and he puts cinnamon and I think it's blue agave or something on there. It's the best plantain ever. Okay,
What's the
that's
name of the
G's
restaurant?
on P's. I'm gonna tell you what's the name of the restaurant right now because I'm
Because
gonna.
when we visit Brooklyn, we need
Yes,
to go
you
find
have
this
to
little rest
go.
hole in the
Yeah, let me
wall.
look it up
Because plantain is,
right
is an
quickly.
important part of life. If
It
you
is.
agree, put a comment
Yes.
say yes,
What?
plantain is amazing. Purpose
And
and plantain, P and P, hello. Go
another thing,
together.
everything over there is good. We just went over there about 2 weeks ago, and they made some beetroot juice that was so delicious, and some porridge. Love, what is the name of your friend's restaurant that we went to 2 weeks ago with the plantain porridge? That was no, it wasn't. Kitchen. Ital Kitchen. Thank you. Love you.
And now
Ital Kitchen. That's the name.
ITEL?
ITAL. Ital Kitchen.
ITAL Kitchen.
Girl, it's my favorite restaurant. Let me tell you.
I'm going to check it out when I visit New York.
2 weeks when I went over there, I got porridge. I love porridge also. And the porridge was so good. I cook a good porridge. But the porridge was so good. I wanted to go back, but it's far. My husband was like, girl, every time we go there, you want to go back right away. You got to wait.
ITIL Kitchen. Okay.
Yes. That's my
We
favorite
put them on
restaurant.
the map because we're going to definitely visit. Oh,
Ital
Denise,
Kitchen.
thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the laughs. Thank you for the honesty, the transparency, your story. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful spirit.
Thank you.
With the Purpose Finder podcast. You guys have heard Denise. She's an amazing person. Please go ahead and give her a follow. Look for her on Facebook, on her website. Sign up for her event. You will not be disappointed. She encourages us to create a plan. She encouraged us to stick to a plan. And then when it is tough, you must do what? Stick to the plan. Thank you so much for being here. Another Purpose Finder podcast. Until next time, see you soon. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap on this episode of the Purpose Finder podcast. I hope today's conversation lit a fire within you because purpose isn't just something you chase. It is something you live every single day. If this episode resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more people on their journey to purpose. Let's continue the journey together. Join the Purpose Finder community on Facebook for exclusive insights, tools, and a tribe of purpose-driven people just like you. And remember, the two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. Your purpose isn't far off. It's already within you. It's time for you to uncover it and live it boldly. Until next time, stay inspired, stay intentional, and keep walking in your purpose.
It started for me with me making a plan, saying, okay, this is the life that I want. I wanted to become